Good morning. I'm glad that you all are here with us this morning, and we are so glad to have a guest with us, Joanne Burns. She is a speech language pathologist, and um, uh, we're just glad to tap into her knowledge this morning as we are shifting what we are doing with speech and language support, given being out of school and not having in-person therapy for sure, but also not having the support of our wonderful SLPs while we're in school to inform our other practices as well. So we are really glad to have these coffee chats. We have another one coming up on Thursday, and have heard great feedback around the format of these, of just a little snippet of content to get you started. We're the Diverse Learners Cooperative. If I don't think I've said that yet, but we're the Diverse Learners Cooperative, and what we do is we support teachers with relevant content, networks, and resources all around supporting our students with disabilities and our English learners. And we're based out of Nashville, Tennessee, as Joanne is as well. So we're going to go ahead and get started. And if you have any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat box, or we'll have a few minutes after Joanne speaks for a minute to ask questions. So please ask those. But Joanne, take it away.
Sure. All right. So happy to be here with you guys today. Going to talk a little bit about how you guys as teachers who primarily support, children who are in special education programs or who are learning English as a second language, how we can help them with some of these speech and language goals that they might have been working on. All right. So
I introduced. So
you have introduced. All right. Here I am. So a little bit about me. I founded Burns Therapy Solutions back in 2016. Right now we have a team of 5 SLPs serving about 100 children, mostly in the private school setting. We have some children that go to public schools and will come to our clinic after school. And we are located over in Green Hills. And what else? Yeah, before all this, we went to schools and got to really go into classrooms, collaborate with teachers a lot more. And we're still collaborating with teachers. It just looks different now that we've moved completely to teletherapy. So there I am with the headset, and that's what my setup looks like now. One-on-one sessions with students. Teachers, sharing newsletters, assignments, packets, things like that. And we're kind of working off that plus the students' goals before that we were working on. We're continuing to work on those. Quick reminder for everybody, speech therapy is more than speech. Our team specifically, we help children with speech sounds, language expression and comprehension, social skills, literacy. We actually have an auditory verbal therapist on staff who does a lot of work with children who have hearing loss or cochlear implants. And I do some work in resonance. We have another therapist that does work on voice, but children who sort of have hypernasal or hyponasal vocal quality or resonance, oftentimes due to things like cleft palate, large adenoids, just sort of like structural anomalies in the mouth. So we do work with that. The field as a whole also does work with like feeding, alternative communication devices, all sorts of different realms, but those are kind of the big ones that we work on. Today, we're just going to touch real quick on some simple strategies that both parents and teachers can implement. If a parent is really like, hey, what should I be doing? Some of these strategies might be helpful. We'll also make it a point to discuss how you need to talk with parents a little bit about classroom modifications if you have a chance over a phone call. And finally, we'll touch on the importance of needing to still refer students for services as needed. Oops, sorry, keep clicking out. So here is one simple strategy, recasting. And you're all quite capable of reading this real quickly. I think Christina did a teaser as well. But what it is not explicitly correcting the child, but say the child says, I wet a book, or I eat it all my breakfast. You respond back in conversation by correcting the error, but in a real casual and supportive kind of way. You're right, you read all that story, wow, or yeah, you ate a lot of breakfast. And just providing that model to the child in the moment when they make an error. And that can work really well for children who have speech and language needs, and it can also work well for English language learners. Another strategy, and we've got a bunch of these on our Instagram page. You can just go to our highlights and click through if you're like, hey, I want some ideas. But this is another one we're pretty fond of, is modeling the thinking process, because oftentimes that model can help students access like, oh, different vocabulary, different ways of thinking about concepts or linking concepts that they might not have gotten on their own. So this strategy, really talking to your child out loud about your thoughts, when solving a problem, teachers do this all the time, but it might not be as natural for parents. So this is another good one that can really help a lot of the diverse learners you guys serve. What else? Again, trying to keep it quick and manageable for you guys. When you do have an opportunity to talk to parents, if you have that opportunity to talk to parents, you want to let them know what kind of modifications you're making in school. And what that's going to look like with the assignments that you might be sending home with packets. I feel like that's a lot of what's going on in Metro right now. It's mostly packet based. Sometimes a lot of the private schools have like daily lessons, and it's pretty intense. But either way, no matter what model your school is using, it helps to let parents know without you modifying every assignment, because that might just not be possible for however many students you have. But letting parents know, hey, on these, maybe you can give an oral response instead of a written response for every single question. Or I've included a word bank, and you can let the child, reference that instead of having to recall all these different vocabulary words. They can then identify it from a list, and that lessens the load. These are likely all things that you, the teacher, were already doing before school closures. It's just communicating to the parent and letting them know what that looks like. So there's a couple more examples up there: decreasing assignment length, allowing extra time. All of this is just helpful for the parent to know. And finally, if a parent expresses concern over a lack of SLP services because schools right now may not be able to provide them to the extent they used to, it's okay to let them know they've got options outside of school. There are plenty of private clinics. There are plenty of medical centers that offer speech and language support. Oftentimes, if you go to a larger medical center, they accept any and all insurance. We accept some insurance. We do have some private pay. Most private clinics kind of have models like that, but it's worth it to call and ask and see maybe if it's something that could work as a parent. But as teachers, you got to meet families where they are. So if the parent brings it up, absolutely let them know they have options. But they might not have time or resources to seek out SLP support right now, and that's okay. Meet them where they are, share what modifications you're making, how you can support those goals in the IEP at home for communication. And maybe with any luck, they can check back in with their child's regular SLP, but I realize that might not always be possible. So kind of feel it out, meet families where they are, let them know they have options outside of school if they want to seek out SLP support. And we're always happy if people give us a call and it's not going to work out, we always can refer them to other places too. So here's our contact information. Even if a parent just wants strategies, it sounds silly, but our Instagram page has loads of highlights of different strategies parents can use. Again, yes, with the guidance of an SLP, but these are just unusual times where we've got to meet families where they are and do what we can to support them. So that is really all I got. Any questions or thoughts from you guys? Always happy to chat.
Thanks, that was really helpful, Joanne. And I have a question actually. So we were talking to a parent last week who was saying that their child normally receives a lot of support through peer modeling. So this child is working on spontaneous language production, and the peer setting, like in a setting with lots of peers, has been exceptionally helpful for him. And that, of course, is not happening right now. Do you have any ideas about this kind of support when it's needed? Of course, we
Absolutely.
all need our peers, but
I know. So we all need our peers. With a lot of our children working on social skills and peer interactions, we've shifted the focus to how can they have positive social interactions in their current social environment, which involves mom, dad, sister, grandma, childcare, provider. Whoever's in that situation, we're trying to do more work geared towards those kinds of interactions because those are likely challenging as well. We also have a lot of the social thinking curriculum has some really great online modules that work on those skills that you could use with peers, but because we're trying to distance from peers, it is tricky. It is a hard spot to be in for a lot of these families. We have had some talk, we haven't gotten it off the ground yet, of starting some peer groups because you do have that option in Zoom. And I think that could be really powerful for some of these kids to learn about group dynamics within the Zoom context because they're having to sit in possibly on large class meetings where there's a bunch of little heads floating around. And how do you know when it's your turn to talk, and sort of that that like not clear curriculum, that secret curriculum. We can help with that some, but it's a big shift to go from everything is really focused on success in school and that school social environment to now you've got the home social environment. So that's mostly where we're trying to make that switch, but it's going to be hard, and we shoot straight with families. It's going to be another big transition when we do go back to schools, kind of working through that and all the pragmatic language demands that come along with transitioning to a new environment, kind of like when we have the start of the school year and kids are transitioning back after summer, but it'll be a little bit more pronounced, I think.
Definitely. That's helpful. Any other questions?
I had a question. I'm working with a lot of dual language learners and are in a public school setting. And one of the biggest challenges that I've had is with providing tech support for the parents when we're providing teletherapy sessions. They just don't have the same access to the resources due to their socioeconomic status level. And we've provided devices. The district has provided devices. I know that's not the case nationally, that kind of support, but it's been the challenge that I've had is teaching the parents how to use things like Zoom, use the online platforms so that services can be provided. And some parents, sometimes I don't even get a response. So I was wondering is that a challenge that you're seeing in your setting? And if so, how are you navigating that?
Yes. And you remind me of a really important point that I meant to touch on and then didn't. But we know in our dual language learner population that it's the same prevalence for these speech and language difficulties as with our English language learners. But we know with dual language learners, oftentimes starting therapy is delayed and parents aren't taken as seriously for whatever reason. People are like, oh, it's because of that, their second language. They're acquiring a second language. Let's give them more time. But really, we know that now we've got good assessments to identify. So keep in mind, you can be a dual language learner and on top of that have speech and language difficulties. But to your question specifically, we have like a quick start guide, and I sent parents, there's a program called Loom that lets you record what you're doing on your screen. And so for a lot of our families, when we first started, I sent out a video that was a screen share of me going into my email and showing them where to click, and it like highlights your mouse. So showing them where to click on the link, then also had a PDF of what an invitation to a Zoom meeting looks like, highlighted, circled arrows saying this is where you click. to make it really clear. And then also we've enrolled all of our families in text message reminders. If they want, they can also enroll in phone reminders. And we send an email reminder about 30 minutes before the appointment. Now everybody's kind of into the routine, but it was a huge, huge learning curve. Because even like I myself, home, 2 small children, you lose track of time. It's kind of this bizarre time warp. So providing them with written instructions, visual instructions, video instructions, and then a bunch of reminders. We also have, it's on our website, it's like a checklist, a Zoom like set up for success kind of thing, because once we'd get the families online, sometimes we'd have like the top of the child's head and we'd be working on their S sound and we couldn't see from here down, or mom and dad would walk away. And with a 5-year-old, we really need someone there to help facilitate. So we have, you could probably modify that pretty easily. Our Zoom checklist might be useful as well. But I would check out.
Send out a link directly to it in the follow-up email as well, if that's helpful. We've heard really great uses of Loom, or the other one was like Screencastify, to create tutorials for how exactly this looks on my computer or on my phone. You can do it on your phone. And then I know in Loom, you can kind of put yourself talking still. So to give that like personal connection of, this isn't a video I'm sending you from the regions of the internet, but that it is actually me sending you an invite, asking you to click on this link, because the links sometimes look intimidating because they're long and they don't look familiar, that it may be helpful to kind of put the familiar touch to what that the link is actually coming from me and it's safe, and this is how you get into the platform. So I hope that's helpful. Thank you so much, Joanne. We really appreciate your time and your expertise in this area. This has been an interesting shift for everyone to think through the implications of it, both from an SLP who's delivering now remote teletherapy services, but also how do we equip our parents and caregivers for support at home, and lots of ways that we can do it, and many yet unexplored. So I think we will continue to innovate in this area as far as how to best support our students who have speech and language unique needs in that area. So if you have further questions, Joanne of course left her contact, and I will send out the slide deck and recording to all those who had registered and are here for this session. And if you have further questions, please reach out here to the DLC team, and we are happy to connect you with resources that are helpful. So thank you. We'll stick around for a couple more minutes, but we are glad to have had you this morning, and hope that you have a great week as we get started here. I think it's Monday, I think. Yeah, so we're around, but thank you very much.
Great. Thank you so much, Brooke. You guys are doing awesome work, and happy to support in any way that I can, because y'all do such great job.
Thanks.